we will be discussing one of the most important part of the Valmiki Ramayana. And as we were discussing on the first day, Valmiki Ramayana is so much in harmony with the values of the world. It follows the laws of the Prakriti, and the Prakriti operates on these three principles: Satya, Rita, and Dharma. Therefore, this Kavya of Valmiki Maharshi, which is Itihasa, because it is Kavya and Itihasa, it teaches us the lesson. At the same time, it has the powerful impact on the heart. I remember one Maharashtrian person was telling he became a judge. This person was talking about a judge. He said when his father was living this world, he divided the property. Yes, he gave the share to this son also, whatever he needed. But he said, more than giving me the property, he gave me Ramayan. That was the greatest treasure. Imagine, very educated, logical person, but he carried greater importance to father giving him the Ramayan. When Ram Setu was questioned by some political people, leftist ideologists, they said there is no such thing as Ram. There is no such thing as Ram Setu. There is no proof. You don't find anywhere in the scripture Ram going to any engineering college. To such a stupid logic, one great economist who was also dharmic, he said, if you want to find the evidence for the Ram Setu, then you go and see the heartbeat of every practicing dharmic Sanatan Dharmi. It will vibrate the names of Ram. Imagine, since thousands of years, the names of Ram and Krishna, Lord Shiva, Lakshmi, are as fresh as Ram, Krishna, and Shiva only. So therefore, because it follows the laws of the life, and one of the most important part of that law is the art of speaking. In the Ramayana, we see one of the most important part of Valmiki's Ramayana is, of course, Kishkindha Kshetra. Of course, every part is very special, but Kishkindha Kshetra is the place where Hanumanji is introduced by Valmiki Maharshi. Just like in the Mahabharata, especially in the Bhagavad Gita. How does Krishna come with Arjun? He is on the chariot along with Arjun, driving Arjuna's chariot. What a beautiful vision to meditate upon. Lord Krishna is driving Arjuna's chariot. Arjuna is there, and Arjuna is ordering Krishna to bring his chariot between the two armies. And there the communication begins. So similarly here, our Hanumanji, Sugriv and his whatever small number of associates he had, they were truly his associate because they had the courage to follow Sugriv even in his bad times. They proved their credibility by being with Sugriv even in the most difficult time, knowing very well Vali is superior to Sugriv in regards to power, position, resources, and then, ruling the Kishkindha kingdom also. So Wali saw from a distance, heard from his followers, there are two young Kumaras, right? They are going around the Kshetra of Kishkindha near Pampa Sarovar. He was very fearful of them, thinking they were also sent by Wali. That is the time Valmiki Maharshi introduces Hanumanji. And how is he addressed as? He is addressed as Vakya Kovida. Vakya Kovida. Imagine Vakya, right? Kovida, expert. And what does Hanumanji do? This is the foundational psychological character of Hanumanji, is to give confidence. नष्ट विश्वास को फिर से स्थिर बनाने वाले. Hanumanji said, do not worry. It is impossible for Wali to come here because Hanumanji knew the curse of Matanga Maharshi. So don't worry, he cannot come here. So that is how our great Valmiki Maharshi introduces Hanumanji in the pages of Valmiki's Ramayana. So therefore, communication, the word communication also has a significant, very interesting meaning also. The communication means the ability to convey and make it as common as possible. When somebody speaks, common, communicate, right? उसको सामान्य बनाना. Whatever cliché, however complex it is, if you are able to communicate so that large number of people understand, that is communication. Therefore, Vakya Kovida. Hanumanji's words had the power to give confidence. Therefore, in Valmiki's Ramayana, we see lot of conversation, samvad. And even though sometimes the samvad apparently appears to be contradictory to each other, like the discussion between Sri Ram and Lakshman. This was just before they went to the forest. What are they doing? Apparently, Sri Ramachandra is disagreeing with Lakshman, and Lakshman is disagreeing with Lord Ram. Ram is saying, my dear Lakshman, this is preordained. This is within our destiny. Otherwise, it was not possible for our father to put us into such a situation because there is no precedent. He has not done it ever before. If somebody repeatedly does, that's a different thing. And somebody has never done it. Generally, what happens when somebody has not done what he has not done, then we are into great shock. There is a betrayal feeling. There is a shock. How could this happen? But Ram is teaching something very interesting. If it has not happened for a long time, never happened before, and somebody does something, it is important to give them the benefit of doubt. And more than the benefit of doubt, Lord Ramachandra was able to say, there is something, Hanumanji, Lakshmanji, which we are not able to understand. There is something which is going to come for us. That is the focusing on Daiva. Not trying to ascertain, understand, analyze, dissect. This must be some reason beyond our comprehension. That is Daiva. And Lakshmanji is extremely powerful in presenting the concept of Purushartha. He said, this is injustice. It doesn't matter it has happened first time, many times, it doesn't matter what has happened. It is not right on the part of our father. Whatever he has done, it is not correct. For whatever reason he has done, it is not correct. It is injustice against you, and therefore I will not tolerate. I will not depend upon Daiva. दैव का आश्रय, the shelter of Daiva is taken by the cowardice and weak people. I am not weak, I am powerful. I will undo this. This is not Daiva, it is pure injustice. Right? What do we see here? It apparently look like that they are opposing each other's views. But if you carefully study, then you realize both are significant, both are important. In the Valmiki's Ramayana, Sita Maya, when she meets Hanumanji, she inquires from Hanuman, hey Hanumanji, does Raghunath practice Daiva and Purushartha simultaneously, harmoniously? When we observe the discussion, it is not necessarily a debate, it is not necessarily conflict, it is not necessarily fight. It could be seeing the same thing from a different perspective. Satya ek hai, drishtikon anek hai, and they are harmonious. In the Mahabharata, we see Yudhishthir Maharaj, Bhima, and Draupadi. Draupadi and Bhima are extremely upset, angry that their own brother and husband, Yudhishthir Maharaj, is very kind to the sons of Dhritarashtra. He does not show that mettle of taking revenge against them. He is not willing to fight against Dhritarashtra's son. And therefore, both of them, they present their perspective about how to deal on this situation, what to do in the situation. Draupadi and Bhima say that when you take the course of forgiveness, you will be taken not very seriously. You will be seen as a cowardice. Kshama, dand ke bina, only Kshama, what does it do? You'll be seen as a cowardice. Nobody will take you seriously. In fact, Bhima presents very powerful logic to Yudhishthira Maharaj, saying that, my dear brother, have you ever seen all the devatas for that matter? Every devata has some weapons in their hands. Therefore, they are worshipped. But you never see Brahmaji being worshipped because he doesn't have any weapons in his hand. Therefore, people do not fear him. Dand dena padega. We have to punish. Right? In this way, both of them present their perspective. But the beauty of Vyasadeva, beauty of Valmiki Maharshi, when you're studying the debate, you realize very beautifully, very subtly, and also very clearly that neither of them are denying the other party's view. Danda and Kshama, they go hand in hand. They are not against each other. Krishna has a butter in his hand, and Krishna also has a stick in his hand in Vrindavan. Krishna has a conch in his hand, and he also has a Sudarshan Chakra. With conch, he gives assurance. With Sudarshan Chakra, he gives liberation. Whether you read the pure devotional Vaishnav literature studying the life of Lord Chaitanya, what does Kaviraj Goswami explains? He brings out this contradictory but very coordinated qualities of thunder-like and lotus flower-like. As soft as the lotus or as hard as the thunderbolt, neither one of them are important or less uh, significant. Therefore, when we study Karuna and Krodha, when they are used by the Dharma, then they have a value. Karuna without Dharma gives rise to exploitation. And Krodha without dharma gives rise to limitless cruelty. And we will study that beautifully in the Valmiki's Ramayana. The entire principle of psychology, communication is beautifully explained. Now, when we study the qualities of Lord Ramachandra in regards to speech, he is called as Purva Bhashi. Purva Bhashi means he has the humility, he has the courage, he has the modesty. If somebody comes to his place, or if he is visiting some place, he will go and start the conversation. बहुत बड़ा गुण है. It's a very great quality. Many times we are hesitant to speak, feeling what if they say no, what if they say something wrong. Introvert quality sometimes is not necessarily psychological reality, but it is fear factor developed for a long time, not willing to communicate. Therefore, that is the first quality of Lord Ram is Purva Bhashi, cracking the conversation, breaking that ice. Not only is Purva Bhashi, even though he speaks first, his speech has Mitha Bhasha. He does not blabber. He does not keep speaking, boring others. Mitha Bhashi. It is concise, short, Purva, Mitha. At the same time, even though he's a Mitha Bhashi, it is, what is, he's a Madhura Bhashi. He speaks very sweet. Purva Bhashi, Mitha Bhashi, and Madhura Bhashi. And therefore, these three qualities of Sri Ramachandra are seen everywhere in the Valmiki's Ramayana. And Bhasha, right, the language. Other day I was speaking in one memorial ceremony, Shraddhanjali Sabha, for a mother and a wife of a senior person. And we were discussing that how in a Bharatiya culture, the Upanishads, right, the Upanishads are very abstract, knowledge centric. Apparently people call them, it is, Vairagya centric Upanishads. Even in that Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad explains that when you learn, when you want to be educated, you seek blessings of your mother. When you conclude your education, you seek blessings of your mother. Therefore, Mata Pratamo Guru, Matra Devo Bhava, then comes Pitra Devo Bhava. But imagine, even though this land worships the motherhood, but one of the greatest irony, when people are angry, when people are upset, when people are stupid, when people are, you know, very light, taking everything easily, when they are cracking jokes, one of the greatest painful reality, unfortunate reality is that everybody swears using the names of their mother and somebody else's mother. ये कितना बड़ा दुर्भाग्य है. Imagine what kind of vibration people are creating. It has become very common. Boys, girls, educated, uneducated, so-called gentlemen, gentlewomen, everyone very easily using those four words in Marathi, Hindi, English, you name it. There is no such word in Sanskrit. Right? When Bhasha is corrupted, very easily one is able to speak ill about the mother whom he says, I worship because it is my Sanskriti. Imagine the contradiction. Right? So therefore, Sabhyata, Mother Kunti Devi in the Bhagavatam, Sabha, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, Vaishnav Sabha. The word Sabha, the root of the word Sabha comes from Sabhyata. Sabhyata, refineness. When there are people who are part of the refined culture, their language is also extremely poetic, very refined, and there is a sensitivity. So therefore, Mita Bhasha, Purva Bhasha, and Madhur Bhasha, it is not supposed to be an exceptional quality. It's supposed to be common quality in regards to communication. Right. But what happens? Unfortunately, there are people who communicate very good, but that communication is born out of their good skill. जिह्वा उनकी बहुत तेजी से घूमती है. They can convey, they can communicate. They're expert presenters, right? That is a skill center. But those who are refined, along with that skill, they are also having a sanskara centric. उनके मुख से संस्कार निकलते हैं, संस्कार के कारण, because of the sanskara and the skill. When they present what they are presenting, it has the power to impact people. Therefore, in the Valmiki's Ramayana, Valmiki Maharshi brings Shurpanakha and Ram, the scene of Ram and Shurpanakha coming in the Panchavati Nasik. They come together, they encounter with each other. And before even discussing about what they talk to each other, Valmiki Maharshi distinguishes between the two. Right. Lord Ram was Sabya and Shurpanakha was Asabya. She was not refined at all. Lord Ram was he was basically expressing, conveying, his demeanor was full of tarunya, youthfulness, right? Biologically also, and spirit wise also. On the other hand, Shurpanakha was old, right? There was lack of prana. Lord Ramachandra was saral and udar. There was no pretension. There was transparency. जो यहाँ है, जो यहाँ है, whatever is there in the heart, whatever is there in the mind, whatever is there in the ego, whatever is there in his buddhi, would come out from his mouth only. So the language, the feeling for that, whatever is going through, the art of conveying it and processing it with buddhi, everyone was seamlessly flowing with saralta and at the same time udar. But Shurpanakha was full of kutilata, duplicitous, double meaning. What she speaks, what she feels, what she wants to do were extremely contradictory to each other. And Lord Ram would always speak Nyaya Yochita. Whatever he spoke, it would make perfect sense. His goal was not to confuse, but rather to enlighten. And Valmiki Maharshi also explains that one of the greatest quality of Lord Ram was is full of sadachar, external sadachar and internal shila. They were not contradictory to each other. And Shurpanakha was Duracharini. Therefore, whether proposing to Lord Ram, while proposing wanting to kill Lakshman and Sita, see, one of the problems with relationship in this world, unlike Lord Ramachandra, unlike followers of Lord Ram, in relationship like Shurpanakha, she saw Sita Devi and Lakshman to be an obstacle for her relationship with Ram. Right? They want exclusivity with Lord Ram. But the person with broader understanding, he does not see anybody obstacle in his relationship with particular person. They want to expand their relationship with large number of people because they are part of the society. And Shurpanakha asked Lord Ram about his whereabouts, his identity. Sri Ramachandra spoke very clearly. What is his background? Where is he come from? Why has he come from? He spoke everything to Shurpanakha. And Shurpanakha gave her identity. While speaking about Ravan and Kumbhakarna, she had a spark in her eyes because she took pleasure in the atrocious behavior of these two people. And then she spoke about Vibhishan also. One great commentator explains, she said, Vibhishan is different from all of us. He doesn't have the same qualities. This Vibhishan is basically Dharmatma and Dharmakangshi. So one teacher explains, that is the time Lord Ram wanted to have Vibhishan as his ally. He developed attraction for Vibhishan. Rather than Vibhishan getting attracted to Lord Ram, of course it happened eventually, but the first step was taken by Lord Ram even in the absence of Vibhishan, but the introduction of Vibhishan by a Rakshasi. She was a Rakshasi, but she spoke something tangible about somebody. Right? Very interesting. So therefore, after speaking with each other, Lord Ram realized that Shurpanakha's intentions are wrong, her communication is bad, her actions are brutal, she doesn't understand the art of conversation. क्योंकि वो सभ्य नहीं थी. In that Asat Sabha near the Hastinapur during the gambling match, the kind of language used by the Kurus is extremely painful. In fact, there are certain verses they want to convey something, but they are ashamed to convey. Because Vyasadeva himself is embarrassed to say something which he cannot say, but unless it is understood, you will not understand what kind of asabhya sabha it was. Wherein Karna, Dushasan, Duryodhan, Shakun, including Dhritarashtra, they were speaking the language. Duryodhan speaking the language of the lowest of the low class, showing his thighs, and beyond also, Vyasadeva gives that indication. Karna speaking that ye to Veshya hai, she's a prostitute, it does not matter whether she's clothes or unclothed, bring her in a public place. Imagine Kunti, after so many years, she is able to speak this to Krishna when Krishna was going back to Dwarka. Asat Sabaya Vanavasa Krishna. No, there were many dangers, but she makes them as common thing. But she specifies in regards to the Sabha. Asat Sabaya. Why? Because that Asat Sabha was not only physically cruel, but verbally it was most slandering and insulting. Right? Which Vibhishan also experienced in the assembly of Ravan. And therefore, when we see this, our Lord Ramachandra presenting this to Shurpanakha, and Shurpanakha not understanding, and eventually Lord Ram told Lakshman, my dear Lakshman, this lady doesn't have the subtle qualities of understanding what humor is. वो हास्य रस को समझती नहीं है, रस तत्व को नहीं समझती. She doesn't understand the mellows only. and therefore she deserves to be punished because she's trying to attack Sita Devi. No hesitation in this regard. Sometimes people say, how is it possible Lord Ram is basically cutting off the nose and the ears of Shurpanakha? How fair it is. She was a woman. That is again listening to stories or learning the Ramayana according to what pleases to them, completely forgetting this very Shurpanakha, what she said, I will eat up Sita Devi. Nobody objects about it. But when Lakshman judiciously punished Shurpanakha, everyone questions the so-called intellectual, just like Ravan. Even Ravan was conveyed by Shurpanakha wrongly. She did not tell the story as it is. She twisted the story. Oh, I went there, and there was such a beautiful girl between the two men, and she's meant to be. Therefore, put your right step and get out of this place. You are enjoying life here. Go there and see what happened to your sister, and more so see what is there, who is there. You can actually capture her, bring her back to you, and make her your queen. And that same Shurpanakha, she's telling Ram that your wife is skinny, she is useless, I am so beautiful. And she's telling Ravan something. You can imagine there is so much of contradiction in regards to their behavior because their communication is also very bad. Therefore, one of the most important part of human existence in the Vedas, the Shad Angas, the 6 limbs of the Vedas, one is called as Shiksha. And what is that Shiksha? Shiksha is not here means education. Shiksha means here phonetics. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad, there is an entire chapter which speaks about phonetics. Right? किस प्रकार से उच्चार करोगे? How your language is refined. And unfortunately, there is a constant aborting of the words, aborting the refined qualities, behaving like Karna, Dushasan, Shakuni, and Duryodhan, and creating a most beautiful place, shining places into Asat Sabhaya. And when that Asat Sabhaya is there, certainly Asat Sabha do not bring people together. Right? They do not bring people together, rather they divide people. And therefore, it becomes very significant to introduce Lord Hanumanji in Valmiki's Ramayan. And one of the great quality of Hanumanji, what is the greatest quality of Hanumanji? As we saw, as Hanumanji is introduced in Valmiki's Ramayan in Kishkindha Kand, Valmiki Maharshi glorifies him as Vakya Kovida. And what was his Kovidness? Displaying great sensitivity and buddhi. And he gave the confidence to our Sugriv. Don't worry, Vali cannot come to this place because he's been cursed. And I will go and talk to these 2 young people. Let us try to make friendship with them. And what Hanumanji does? Hanumanji disguises himself as a bhikshuka. Of course, Sugriv also spoke to him. He disguises himself and he comes to in that area of Kishkindha Kshetra, the entire land of water, wherever the water flow, water flew, it was called as Pampa Kshetra. Now, Pampa Kshetra is simply a small pond. Otherwise, wherever that Tungabhadra Nadi was flowing, wherever there was water body, it was called as Pampa Kshetra. And there is one place in Vijayanagar, in Kishkindha Kshetra, close to Tungabhadra river, next to that Sugriv's temple, Yantrodharaka Hanumanji's temple. And some believe, some feel We cannot historically prove, right? But many people believe that was the place of Ramachandra meeting Hanumanji. Another very interesting principle of Avatara Tattva: Avatara doesn't act like the superhero, what they show in the movie theater, that one hero, he enters into the gang of the mafia alone, fighting 50,000 people, 100 people, 200 people alone, right? But here, one of the core character of Avatara is that Avatara can do anything and everything. But because Avatara is playing the role of a human, what does Avatara do? Avatara tells all other the pious entities, the devotees, the yogis, devatas, that since I'm going down to establish dharma, you also contribute according to your capacity to come down. Assist me in establishing dharma. It is not a match to be seen. It is the event of life to be participating. सबको भाग लेना इसमें. It doesn't matter what is your power, what is your resources, how much strength and power you have. Whatever you have, everyone has to come. The squirrel also came, and Vayuputra Hanumanji also came. Right. So Hanumanji disguised himself, Bhikshu Rupa, and then he started speaking to Lord Ram and Lakshman. He praised their demeanor. He gave them authentic expression of appreciation. There was no flattery. And he could recognize that they were not ordinary. They are not sage. They have the saintly qualities, but they are also coming from a royal family. Right? And he eventually realized that however much I am asking, Ram and Lakshman are not speaking only. Because Hanumanji was asking about them, but he did not introduce himself. Hanumanji realized, right? And Hanumanji explained to Ram and Lakshman, having that confidence, the background story of Sugriv, right? And then he said, I have come in the Bhikshu form. It is my background. I'm the son of Anjana and Keshari, Vayuputra, Hanuman, and I can take any Vesha. And therefore, again, Valmiki Maharshi calls Hanumanji as Vakya Kushala. And he said, I'm asking you repeatedly, but you are not even speaking. Can you tell me, who are you? Hearing Hanumanji speak. Now, the way nature of Lord Ramachandra was always to communicate, as I said, Purva Bhashi. And if it is not Purva Bhashi, as he spoke to Shurpanakha, Shurpanakha asked this question to Lord Ram, and Ram instantly told everything to Shurpanakha. But before even speaking, before even answering Hanumanji's question, Lord Ramachandra looks at Lakshman and he says, my dear Lakshman, I can guess, I can feel, I can tell you confidently that he must have had the Shiksha of Rigved. He must have studied Atharva Ved. And I can tell you, guarantee that Hanumanji must be expert in Samaved also. He must have studied Vyakaran many times. Imagine Sri Ramachandra is suffering in separation of Sita Devi, and an unknown person has come, is asking them the question. He told the story of Sugriva and is very eager to speak to Lord Ram and Hanumanji, Lakshman, but rather than immediately answering, unlike Lord Ramachandra, who is Purva Bhashi, Mita Bhashi, Madhura Bhashi, He was fascinated by the speech of Hanuman. Imagine how beautifully Hanumanji must have spoken. Right? Sometimes you find most refined people, genuinely speaking so nicely, they are mesmerizing. They capture our heart and our mind and our attention. Imagine Lord Ramachandra, who is known to be the greatest of the speaker, he is fascinated by Hanumanji. He is basically analyzing Hanumanji's speech. That he knows Atharva Veda, he knows Samaveda, he knows Yajurveda, he knows Vyakarana. And why, my dear Lakshman? Because I see his eyes, his eyebrows does not show any kind of dosha while speaking. His breath control, his recitation, his diction is unmatchable. Lord Ram, as we were discussing yesterday, that I am the ability in man. So when Lord Ram saw that ability, he saw the divine spirit in Hanumanji. And he said, when Hanumanji is speaking, he doesn't necessarily speak in a long, unbroken sentences. And at the same time, he doesn't speak in a very short word. Appropriate, as much as required, is able to speak. Words, they are not painful to hear to the ears. There is no uh, wrongness in his speech. His Vani, his Kantha, everything has the science of Madhyama, Vaikari, and they are spoken in a Samadhi Bhasha also. Right. Therefore, Lord Ram said, you see, my dear Lakshman, he does not speak in high pitch or low pitch. Lord Ram said, now you explain to Hanumanji what is our background. Lord Ram is fascinated. He appreciated the speech. He appreciated his demeanor, his body language, his expression, right? Imagine how much he was fascinated, but he asked our Lakshman to speak. One of the qualities of Lord Ramachandra is that if someone comes to him, people like Hanumanji, Lakshman, Sugriv, Sita Devi, Mother Kaushalya, what does he do? He wants the highest quality of contribution. He's not demanding. He knows them, they can provide it. Therefore, Lord Ram, through his own life, teaches every living entity there is no limit to how refined one can try to be. Not artificially, not going crazy, seamlessly, naturally, right? Making it as good as possible, as refined as possible, just like a murtikar when he's carving the deity. Imagine, I can never figure out. I can appreciate art, but drawing something was very, very difficult job. Cannot make one matka also. But imagine this sculptor, when you go to different temples all over the world, when you see the eyes of Krishna, eyes of Lord Ram, one can understand that how the Supreme is empowering the artist to make the eyes so charming, right? They're so charming that what does it do? It basically captures the attention of people. The deities are made so charming like that. And therefore, Hanumanji's word charmed Lord Ram to such an extent. He was glorifying Hanumanji, but he did not answer. And he asked Lakshman to give the answer to Hanuman. It was unprecedented. Before it had not happened, Lord Ram would give the answer. Why Lord Ram did not give the answer? Tyagaraj Swami, one great saint, he explains that Lord Ram was so attracted to Hanumanji, but Hanumanji, in a very subtle way, he spoke about his position as the secretary of Sugriv, but did not convey his relationship to Lord Ram. It was very subtle. Lord Ram did not correct him because Lord Ram does not grossly, blatantly, at the cost of hurting, he does not correct. Like kitne bar, how many times it happens, people, when there is no need, it is so insignificant, but they'll still poke their nose and hurt people by speaking those language which they are not supposed to be using. And the Ram style of correction, Ram style of communication in the Mahabharata, actually between the Karna and Shalya's discussion, it is explained that the Ingitasya Magadha, the people of Magadha, what do they do? Ingita, indication. Through indication, they understand what you want to convey. Very expert. And the Koshala people, Prekshitapstu Koshala, by basically seeing only. Right? They have to see face to face, then they understand what they want to say, convey. Ardokto Kaurava, Kuru Panchala, Ardokto Kuru Panchala. And the Kuru Panchalas need to hear half the word. Dakshinyatya Purna. And Dakshinyatya, you have to speak the complete word. This is Mahabharata explains. So Lord Ram, just by seeing at Lakshman saying, you speak, Lakshman understood the art of communication and gave such a fine speech to Hanumanji, even though apparently Lakshman appears to be, or people have portrayed him to be always angry young man. He's not like that. He gave the story. He glorified his father because he had no issue with his father. He had an issue with injustice to Lord Ram. Right? He was not angry with his father. He was angry with the decision of sending Lord Ram to the forest. He separated his father from the issue. And how do we know? Because in this story, he is not saying bad about his father. Rather, he is glorifying his father. And he speaks that Raghunandan, Raghunath, Raghav, Ramachandra is the son of that great Dasharath Maharaj. And we are going around looking for this great Sita Devi who has been kidnapped by Ravan, as conveyed by Jatayu. And as far as my relationship, as far as my introduction, Hanumanji, I am nobody. In fact, I am the most insignificant Das, a servant of Lord Ramachandra. It is his greatness, he has accepted me as his brother. Hanumanji immediately realized, "Zara maine gadbad kar diya." But he did not correct there himself. He wanted to take that time so that he does not embarrass Lord Ram. And he got to speak that when he came to Lanka as the messenger of Lord Ramachandra. When he met with Ravan, Hanumanji said, he asked, "Who is this monkey? Kaun hai kapi? Who are you?" Then he said, "Dasom Koshalendrasya Ramasya Klishta Karmana Nihanta Shatru Sainyanam." No, he said, "My master Ram, I am the servant of that Ram, Dasom Koshalendrasya. I am the servant of that Lord Ramachandra and the secretary of Sugriv." In this way, Hanumanji rectified wherever it was supposed to be. rather than embarrassing Lord Ram. Oh, sorry, 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 I should have not said like that. No, he rectified at the right place. That is the beauty of Valmiki's Ramayana, conveying so beautifully. One time when Lord Ramachandra was fighting Ravan, right? Now Ravan had the most powerful chariot. But Lord Ramachandra, you know what he had? He had the largest number of kapis fighting a war like the war fought by ordinary human being without any resources. Indra seeing that, he sent Matali, okay, you go and support Lord Ram. And Matali came down. Now Matali's speed and Lord Ram's, the speed of his Ratha, whether it is Sumantara driving or the great Garuda is driving him, or Daruka in Krishnalila driving, their speed is different. So at one point of time, Lord Ram pushes Mathali to drive faster. But then he realizes, no, I cannot say, because he is not my chariot driver. Right? He holds himself. So this kind of sensitivity we see in the Valmiki's Ramayana, we see in the Mahabharata. When you read them carefully, it is but natural at somewhere, at some point of time, the desire to develop these kind of skills with samskara will appear in the heart of those who are reading Ramayana. Unfortunately, because we don't read Ramayana written by Valmiki Maharshi, we read the stories written by some stupid people having a perverted mindset, twisting the story of Lord Ramachandra and Mother Sita and Lakshman, making everything but Valmiki's Ramayana. Imagine reading such kind of idea, what kind of mindset one will develop. But just reading this conversation of Hanumanji, Lord Ramachandra, interacting with each other, and how Hanumanji is rectifying himself without even making it appear to Lord Ram, embarrassing Lord Ram, oh sorry, sorry. He would not do that, but he rectified himself because the language was not simply verbal, but the communication would also happen through the understanding of the prana reflected by Lord Ram to Lakshman. Then we go to the next stage, the stage where Lord Ramachandra eventually chose Hanumanji. Right? Hanumanji was chosen to convey the message of Lord Ram to Sita Devi, if he finds her, and find Sita Devi, give her the message of Lord Ram, minimum look at her, see her, and if he can give the message, give her the message of Lord Ramachandra, and come back to Kishkindha Kshetra and convey the message to Lord Ram about Sita's whereabouts and what they need to do to fetch Sita back to Lord Ramachandra. Imagine, the task was difficult. The task was very challenging. We'll directly go to our place where where Hanumanji is meeting Sita Devi. We saw that Hanumanji, when his identity was not known to anybody, right? When they were discussing who will jump across, and nobody had the capacity, everybody had the devotion, but they didn't have the capacity to cross 100 yojana. Angad was not allowed to go, and Jambavan said, you are like that most important Nari whom the husband protects. You are the root of this campaign. You are the foundation of it. So therefore, we can't send you. You have to be with us. Right? We know you can jump across, but you stay here. And then Jambavan saw that Hanumanji is sitting there completely lost in his own self, not taking part, not at all taking part. Jambavan goes there. Another profound way of communicating. Jambavan tells the background of Hanumanji. Who is he? What is he? How was he born? What power he has? Imagine if we have teachers like Jambavan who can see the potential in their students rather than using that word, right? When we speak to children or the children speak to other children, one can destroy a child's confidence by using words which are just, but they are extremely non-judicious. They can create a lasting impression. If somebody's child is good in art, may not be so good in mathematics, but to call that child as a dull boy, the child starts believing. Right? Sometimes the words are there, as I was mentioning, giving bad words while worshipping the mother, giving bad words in the name of the mother. All negative vibration have the power to destroy the confidence of the living entity to do as less as possible because they don't believe that I can do something. But Jambavan is such a profound teacher. He gave the entire background to Hanuman, saying what he can do. He said, you can jump because you are given that benediction. You are like Garuda. You are like Garuda. You can also jump and you can also fly, my dear Hanuman. You can do it. And when Hanumanji was helped by Jambavan to awaken his consciousness, his capacity, his ability to cross over, Hanumanji was ready. The whole description of Hanumanji preparing himself, boasting and jumping of the ocean is one of the most beautiful part of the Valmiki's Ramayana and also Tulsi's Ramayana. The story itself is fascinating. Hanumanji came there after searching everywhere. The beauty of Valmiki's Ramayana, right? Hanumanji also speaks to himself. There is a self communication also. अपने आप को समझाना. When he was looking for Sita Devi everywhere, he couldn't find her. After trying all his best, he couldn't find Sita Devi. Then he starts talking to himself. And when he starts talking to himself, you will find the vulnerable quality of Hanumanji, who is Vayuputra. Right? Without him, the entire creation cannot function. The prana will not be there. But that same Vayuputra, when he comes as Hanumanji, he has done this powerful Herculean task, but is still not able to find Sita Maya, Sita Devi. What he goes through in his own mind, that is also Valmiki Maharishi depicts without any hesitation. Hanumanji said, what is happening? Imagine if I go without bringing the message of Sita Devi, what will happen to Sugriv? What will happen to Ram? What will happen to Lakshman? What will happen back in Ayodhya? Hanumanji saw a bleak future. He saw the message of Sita not being found will cause death of many people. So that's very dangerous. I cannot bring the message. I cannot bring the bad message. I cannot bring the inauspicious message because that message will only kill so many people. It is better that I give up my life. अपने से बात कर रहा है. If I give up my life, then at least all these great people will have some hope. Uncertainty has the power to give hope against hope. clarity, satya, in regards to negative news destroys people. And therefore, it is explained one of the greatest, some born out of their intuition, some born out of mathematical calculation through Jyotish Shastra, like Lord Chaitanya's father, when he went to an astrologer, the astrologer could see Mahaprabhu taking sannyas, but he did not tell that story to Lord Chaitanya's father, knowing very well that he will not be able to handle. That is another beautiful art of a communication by a great teacher. They have the knowledge to communicate, but they choose not to communicate, because let the pain come whenever it is supposed to come. This should not be brought now when they can have beautiful life for next so many years. So Hanumanji, realizing that it is so painful, I cannot go back because Sita is not around. So what did Hanumanji think? Hanumanji was thinking, it is better that I give up my body. Now Valmiki Maharshi doesn't hesitate to bring this pure weakness of a human existence. And from there, because Hanumanji is constantly talking to himself, he's speaking to himself, that is going through this level of reality, but then he says, no. It is explained that if you continue to live, if you give up your life, there is no chance of future positivity. But if you sustain your life by simply being alive, he quoted Niti, by simply being alive, one can have the chances, one can have the potential of actually fulfilling one's missions, one's desire, one's expectation. Better let me live. When Hanumanji was thinking, instantly remembered, oh, Sampati had told that Sita Devi is in Ashoka Vatika. See, this is the beauty of Valmiki Maharshi's Ramayana, which is so in sync with Prakriti, this world, that this world is the land of duality. It doesn't matter who you are. Yesterday we saw Avatar Tattva, how much Avatar Tattva was acting helplessly. But that does not bewilder us. In fact, the story of Lord Ram's helplessness makes us understand Avatar Tattva with a greater depth. There is no one in this world from the Abrahamic faith who don't have the concept of avatar can ever bewilder us. Absolutely no chance only for them, because we stand strong on the values of Avatar Tattva, and we have not our own self, we have means our power connected to Valmiki's Ramayana, Mahagvat, and Ramayana. They are so powerful and clarifying, and not only clarifying, basically making us absorbed in this very understanding of Valmiki's Ramayana. So when you see Hanumanji going through, oh my God, how can happen this to Hanumanji? You don't get bewildered, because you know the foundational principle of Valmiki Maharshi's Ramayana. Hanumanji jumped across, he came there. After coming, he saw Sita Devi. And what did he see Sita Devi? She was also in great pain. He saw the Rakshasas troubling her. He saw Trijata trying to pacify her. He saw Sita Devi. He realized it is Sita Devi, but still he had to confirm. Who can he confirm? He can confirm with her only. He cannot ask. So Hanumanji was hiding behind a tree, not exposing himself. Again, he started doing self-talk. Self-talk is very important. People do not do self-talk. People do self-doubt. Right? If you focus on this principle, we realize we do not do self-talk, we self-doubt. And by doubting and doubting, reconfirm our uselessness, our low level of confidence. right? With such attitude, when we take to the path of spirituality, and when we hear that one has to be humble, that humility, what is expressed in the Shastras, is a very good kavacha to hide our own cowardice, our own self-doubt, right? But it is only a question of time. Our artificial humility will be exposed because we are not giving confidence to ourselves. We are not speaking from the principle of Aham Brahmasmi. It doesn't matter what is my background. At the end of the day, I am full of knowledge, full of bliss, full of eternality. Yes, today I am low, but my potential is so great. This Hanumanji we saw before, and here is talking what to do now. That Sita Maya is in a precarious condition because Sita Devi does her self-talk. She convinces herself why she should not stay in this world. It is better to give up her life because there is no way anybody can come here. And in her pain, she permits Lord Ram to marry again. In her mind, she's talking to herself, and she wanted to give up her life, and she convinces. She knew that giving up life is not a correct thing to do, but she had her logic. Right? Hanumanji is watching all this. Then he starts speaking, what to do now? I have seen Sita Devi, but I cannot go back. Just seeing her and not giving her the news of Lord Ramachandra. If I go back, Lord Ram will be upset. I can't go back and tell him I saw Sita Devi losing her life. That will be very dreadful, very difficult to convey that kind of message. I need to communicate to her. But how can I communicate? If I do go down immediately, Sita will scream. And if she screams, the Rakshasas will attack me. If they attack me, I certainly will spend all my time fighting with them. I will defeat them, but maybe I will be bound also. And once they take me to Ravan, then my whole mission of communicating Sita Devi about him coming from Lord Ramachandra will be failed. So I cannot do this. And then Hanumanji also quotes scripture that unless one is confirmed, one should not fight. Sometimes those who are with less resources but extremely powerful in regards to their value system, they take on to the battle which they cannot win. They feel that my righteousness has to give me victory. No, sir, it doesn't happen like that. Just because you are right does not mean you win. Along with being right, you need to be strength and power also. And who's speaking this? Hanumanji is speaking, a great communicator. He said, unless we are assured about victory, one should not attack. So my goal is to not start a battle. My goal is to convey the message of Lord Ramchandra to Sita. And how do I do this? Because if I speak in Sanskrit language, that language will bewilder Sita Devi because Ravan kidnapped Sita by speaking the language of Sanskrit. Now this I can open up so many Indologists from 17th century. They picked up the Sanskrit language. Our people taught them Sanskrit. Just because they learned Sanskrit, we felt that, wow, they are so good. We forgot to realize their Sanskrit speaking is just like Ravana speaking Sanskrit and trying to kidnap our core values. Right? They brought the concept of there are so many stories in the Vedas that in the Vedas how cow killing is allowed, right? All these things were brought. Now Hanumanji, I will read this verse from Valmiki's Ramayana. I'll come there. Hanumanji basically realized I cannot speak in Sanskrit Bhasha because Ravan had spoken Sanskrit language. I have to speak the language which Sita Devi knows about it. It is familiar to her. She will feel that atmiyata, that closeness. And when I'm speaking to Sita Devi, I have to speak to her the beautiful stories of Lord Ramachandra. That way, her confidence will increase in me. Because Hanumanji knew, imagine people go through trauma for life when they go through some kind of abuse. And here Sita Devi is delicate. Right? She had spent so many years with Lord Ramachandra, and suddenly she's kidnapped in a place where she does not know what's going to happen to her. So she will see everyone with suspicion. So therefore, Hanumanji said the best way where Sita Devi will not react, Sita Devi will not scream by and attract all the Rakshasas. He sat on a tree and very sweetly started narrating the entire pastime of Lord Ram. Beginning from that there was the great King Dasharath Maharaj. Right? He was so powerful. And he had a son named Ramachandra. And he came to the forest and he narrated the story of Sita Devi being kidnapped by Ravan. He narrated the story of Lord Ram making friendship with Sugriv. By hearing this, imagine Sita Devi was looking here and there. Is it Brahm? Is it hallucination? Just like Lord Ram had going through that hallucination. But for Lord Ram, it was a reality. It looked like Sita, but Sita was not there. But for here, Sita Devi, she felt it is maybe my mental, imagination, but I can see this kapi, right? And then Hanumanji came down and they were conversing. And then again, Sita Devi felt as he was coming closer, she felt it must be Ravan. And she was almost losing her consciousness. And again, Hanumanji narrated the story very beautifully. Then Sita Devi asked him, can you describe the bodily features of my husband Ram and Lakshman? And if you want to know the most authentic description of how Ramachandra looked like, you cannot have a better description, which was approved by Sita Devi, spoken by Hanumanji, which convinced Sita Devi that it must be the servant of Lord Ram, the secretary of Sugriv. He has come for my benefit. Imagine her happiness was no bound. It was limitless. And then there was nice talk. And again, Hanumanji, to reconfirm, he showed the mudrika along with the story. And in part of that story, when Sita asked Hanumanji what my husband is doing, he explained what Lord Ramachandra does. And Hanumanji says, Namamso Raghava bhungte nachaiva madhu sevate. Vanyam suvitam nityam bhaktamashrita panchamam. Koi bhi Raghuvamshi, no Raghuvamshi never eats meat and they never take madhu. Now, madhu, honey or liquor. And then Bhagwan Ram, what does he do? What does he take? He only take 4 times he fast. And in the 5th hour, he takes certain roots and nuts. Completely dismantling all the argument of so-called scholars, so-called people who are looking for, again, as I said in the first day, the followers of great rishis, they never forced anybody to become violently convert them to vegetarianism. And we saw Bharadharaj Rishi, the great disciple of Valmiki Maharshi, knowing there were soldiers from different background, he allowed them to eat what they're supposed to eat. But doesn't mean that they're promoting it. Right? Any human being can understand very simple logic that do not slander people for their behavior, help people to elevate from wherever they are, slowly, slowly. Narad Muni, right? The whole principle is not blatantly slandering people, but helping people to rise slowly. Therefore, giving what they need, right, and slowly elevating. And here our Hanumanji makes it very clear that Raghukul people, and especially Lord Ramachandra in the forest, because there are people who have misused, like Ravan speaking the Sanskrit, using the wrong connotation of the words, right? And saying that Lord Ram ate meat. Of course, somebody asked this to Prabhupada. We have heard that Lord Ramachandra ate meat. Prabhupada said he can digest fire also. He is powerful. If you have the power to digest, he can eat anything and everything. But still, for the sake of making facts very clear, Hanumanji conveyed everything to Sita Devi, including about his habits, showing her the mudrika, and Sita Devi in exchange giving something to Hanumanji. And then Hanumanji said, now I need to communicate also to Ravan. Right? And then Hanumanji ate nicely. He started playing around. He destroyed the Ashoka Vatika, which did not give pleasure to Ravan. And then eventually he allowed himself to be captured. He conveyed Ravan the power of himself. And after conveying the power of himself, when Ravan decided to burn him, Hanumanji burned the Lanka. Right? He burned the Lanka. He showed the power of Ramdas, the Samarth Ramdas. Therefore, in Valmiki's Ramayana, as much as Karuna Ras is there, as much as human refined qualities are there, but there is also another way of communicating, the communication of assertiveness, the communication of the Kshatriya power. Right? He showed what Hanumanji can do, a small, insignificant servant of Lord Ramachandra. He came back and he extinguished the burning tail, and there was some kind of melancholy in his heart. What did I do? I came to protect Sita Devi, but I think I've burnt her. I burnt Lanka. What I've done? But when he came back in Ashoka Vatika, he realized I was completely harmless only because Sita Devi was praying. How foolish on my part to have this kind of doubt. And then that great Hanumanji flew, he jumped back. And all the kapis, they came back to Kishkindha Kshetra, celebrating. When they came to Kishkindha Kshetra, there was this great garden of Sugriv, garden called as Madhuvan. Hanumanji had just come from Ashoka Vatika. It was a private garden of Ravan and he destroyed it. And the destruction of Ashoka Vatika did not give any pleasure to Ravan. But these kapis came and they had a great pleasure in that Madhuban garden. And the uncle, Mama of Sugriv, was the main in charge of that. And all the kapis basically teased him, ridiculed him. They had a big gala party and he ran away complaining to Sugriv. He said, I don't understand, how is it possible? All these monkeys, all these kapis, headed by Jambavan, Angad, Hanumanji, they have destroyed your garden. And Sugriv celebrated the news of destroying his garden. He understood the art of communication of these kapis. They would not dare to do this. They are celebrating their victory. It doesn't mind. I don't mind destroying my garden if the message is connected to success of their mission. And therefore Sugriv came there. They met Lord Ramachandra and Lakshman, that beautiful place near Malyavanta. And after that, Lord Ramachandra heard from Hanumanji what he did for message of Sita Devi. He narrated the glories of Sita reviving Lord Ramachandra's life. And Lord Ramachandra being extremely pleased with Hanumanji. And everybody was watching that how Lord Ram was so pleased with Hanumanji, even though in the Shastra that the servant, the student, and the son are not supposed to be praised. You care for them, but don't flatter them. Right? But Lord Ramachandra broke this etiquette and glorified Hanumanji to such an extent. He said, my dear Hanuman, even if I take 5 births and try to repay what you have done to me, I will not be able to repay. And Lord Ram embraced Hanumanji. And that embrace of Lord Ramchandra to Hanuman made Hanumanji stay in this world. Rather than giving up that body which was embraced by Lord Ram, and wherever the Hari Katha, especially Ram Katha, is going on, in whichever language, Lord Ram's the greatest servant, Hanumanji, is there, the greatest communicator, the greatest uniter. Right, wherever Hanumanji goes, he brings people together. He conveys so beautifully. He protected the life of Sita Devi. He protected the life of Lord Ramachandra. He protected the life of Lord Ramachandra second time, bringing the Sanjivini. Right, he protected Lord Ram and Lakshman. When he came back to Ayodhya, he was sent early by Lord Ram. And Bharat was eagerly waiting that I need to see Lord Ram. I cannot wait any further. And he brought the message of Lord Ram's coming back to Ayodhya, narrating the entire story. So therefore, Hanumanji, as much as Lavakusha, is the storyteller of Ram Lila again and again and again. And therefore, there are certain kirtan systems. There is a Naradiya kirtan and there is a Hanumat kirtan also. We must have seen in South India, in Maharashtra also, the kirtankar. They derived that inspiration enthusiastically, glorifying the greatness of Lord Ram, his avatara tattva, narrating the story of Hanumanji. And as long as Hanumanji is there, as long as Hanumanji is there, Ram Katha is there. And as long as Ram Katha is there, Valmiki's Ramayana will be prevailing everywhere. And therefore, practicing the beautiful stories, applying the nuances of this beautiful Ramayana will only bring auspicious not only to the followers of Lord Ram, those who are faithful to Ram, because Ram's philosophy at the end of the day, he says, Sarve Santu Sukhino Bhavantu. Sarve Jana Sukhino Bhavantu. Sarve Santu Niramaya. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kashit Dukh Bhaga Bhaved. Jai Sri Ramachandra Bhagavan Ki Jai. We have 5 minutes for any question. Self-talk. Could you kindly share some tips on how to practice positive or constructive self-talk? Also, when you said that being right doesn't always matter if you don't have the power, how should you approach such situation in life? Is it sometimes wiser to step back from certain battles, even when we understand the reality clearly, simply because we lack the strength or influence not to change it. Yes, self doubt is different from self talk, because self doubt basically sinks us from wherever we are. It takes us one step backward, second step backward, third step backward. We don't grow. It is antithesis. It is anti I am the ability in human being, as Krishna spoke. Right? Therefore, we have to distinguish between humility and self-talk, self-doubt. Humility is not, sometimes what we consider to be humility is not humility, but it's self-doubt. And therefore, we are sinking. Humility can only be practiced by those people who understand their real worth and act accordingly. Right? So, therefore, it is important that when we have right mentorship coming from, what do? They always inspire us to always look forward for growing in life. Therefore, for me, again, self-talk can only be done when you have the connection to these beautiful scriptures, the Shastras, and especially Shastras when you read from the perspective of positivity. Like, one of the trouble when people read scripture is to see death everywhere rather than seeing Krishna everywhere. Oh, death can come anytime, death can come anytime, death can come in anytime. So what does it do? So this kind of contemplation about death makes you less and less active. We don't fear death, right? We want to transcend death. Therefore, Narad Muni explains in the Bhagavatam that, hey Yudhishthir, one should not take life seriously and one should not take death seriously. One should observe how the time factor moves on. In the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada writes in the purport in one place, Vasudev, when he realized the imminent danger of Kamsa killing Devaki, what can you do? Kamsa is very powerful. So there Prabhupada explains, because Vasudeva is speaking to himself. He said, it is my responsibility, it is my duty to protect Devaki as long as possible, as much as possible. And Prabhupada writes there, living entity should always try to live as long as possible, because that's its constitutional nature. While trying to live longer, if you die, then you are not responsible for the crime of simply dying. Very profound concept, right? So therefore, it is important. The self-talk should happen through the scriptural connection, always focusing on the potential of the living entity while knowing the limitation also. Therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he told Arjun, very profound. He said, Arjun, no, if you lose the battle, you will achieve Viraswarga. If you win the battle, you will rule the kingdom. In either condition, my dear Arjun, victory or defeat, you do not have the choice of withdrawing from the battle. And the second question about, all the great teachers, including Sri Krishna and Lord Ram, Hanumanji, you take any name, the Pandavas, they knew just being right is not sufficient, because right will only win. Along with right, you have the resources. So therefore it is better to withdraw. Wait for the time. And Hanuman is speaking that. Yudhishthira spoke this to Bhima. He said, now it is not the time to attack, because nobody will stay neutral. Everyone will fight against us, including Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya. Yudhishthira was very clear. Forget about they being neutral. They'll fight against us. Arjuna was not very clear about it. Therefore, when he saw Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya standing against him, ready to fight, that is the time he broke down. His senses became very weak. He was trembling, and therefore he confessed to Krishna, you know, I don't want to fight. How can I do this? And eventually he said, I'm bewildered. Please let me know. Let me speak. So therefore, getting that power, and sometime, like in the rare cases, like Vibhishan, realized there is nothing more to be here. So he took the risk of telling the truth to Ravan. And right in the presence of Ravan, the way he chastises Vibhishan in the Valmiki's Ramayana, oh God, it was known that if it was not meant for Ravan, still he was had some quality. He did not kill his brother. He kicked his brother. He threatened him, right? And he chased him away. And that is how Vibhishan came, because he had to pay the price. But he had the courage to pay the price. People can tell the truth. But if you are telling the truth, is it going to create a revolution and help hundreds and thousands of people? If your truth is going to be destroyed along with your own self, it is not wiseness to do. Create the resources, develop those strength, and along with your righteousness, become strong to communicate so that you stay alive and the place where you speak, they're also benefited, and very less damage will happen. Thank you. We'll stop here and meet tomorrow to discuss the beautiful story of the unsung hero, Sumantara, another profound character in Valmiki's Ramayana.